Alrighty, welcome to another lesson of Pro Mandarin. My goal is to teach you to reach conversational fluency in Mandarin in the shortest time possible. Now, you're probably wondering, what's the meaning of this picture? I don't understand. Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. How to talk about the meaning of things in Chinese and how to tell someone when we don't understand something. Now, if you're new here, you're probably wondering, can I learn all this in one video? Well, let's find out. Alrighty, so let's jump right into this lesson. The first phrase that we're going to use here is 什么意思? By itself, it means, what does that mean? It could also mean, what do you mean by that? Depending on the context or depending on how you say it. So if you were to just say 什么意思, you could just be saying, what do you mean? Or what does it mean? But if you were to say 什么意思? Something a little bit more aggressive like that, it would come off as rude, or maybe you understood what they were saying, but you were just wondering what they meant by what they said. Or you were wondering why they said it that way. That would be the reasoning for you to say that phrase that way. Now, to make things a little bit clearer, as a language learner, we need to be able to ask, what does a certain word mean? So what we would do then is add the word just before this phrase. I've added in a few different pieces of vocabulary for us to use here. So that way, in case you're listening to some native speaker and you don't quite get the words they were using, and that way you have a question to ask to make it a little bit clearer to yourself, what was it that they were talking about? So the way to do that is you would say the word first, then you would say 是什么意思? So I'm going to quickly go over the pronunciation of these words over here to the left, and then we'll start talking about the meaning and how you can get the meaning, or how a native speaker would likely respond to you when you ask this question. So the words that we have over here to the left are 高尔夫球, 高尔夫球, which means golf. Then we have 月亮, 月亮, which means moon, and then 书桌, 书桌, which means desk. And lastly, we have 手机, 手机, which means cell phone. Now, the way that this would work is, if you didn't know what 高尔夫球 meant, you would say 高尔夫球是什么意思? Or you could also even omit the 是 and say 高尔夫球什么意思? What you're saying is, what does 高尔夫球 mean? Now, to clarify, you can even add in the phrase 我没懂, 我没懂. It means I don't understand, or I didn't understand. This will help clarify to the Chinese native or to a fellow language learner that you didn't understand what a particular word meant. Let's go over one more example, and then I'll let you do a couple practice questions on your own. So then, if you were to say, what does 月亮 mean? I didn't understand. You would say, 月亮是什么意思? 我没懂。月亮是什么意思? 我没懂。 Now, whenever I ask, how would you ask or how would you say, and then I follow it up with a phrase, what I'm going to do is give you a moment to try to work it out in your own mind how you would say that, and then try to say it out loud. Now, if you need some extra time, go ahead and pause the video to give yourself a little bit extra time to kind of work that out. So how would you then say, what does 手机 mean? 手机是什么意思? 手机是什么意思? Now, how would you say, what does 书桌 mean? I didn't understand. 书桌什么意思? 我没懂。书桌什么意思? 我没懂。Or 书桌是什么意思? 我没懂。Now we're going to focus on another phrase that will help us know how somebody is likely to respond to this question, or how you could respond to this question in Chinese. And the way this phrase works is, you would say 高尔夫球是, and then you say what it means, and then you say 的意思. So for the first example, 高尔夫球是 golf 的意思. Just to kind of recap one more time, how would you say, what does 书桌 mean? 书桌是什么意思? 书桌是什么意思? Now, to answer this, 书桌 means desk. So, how would you say that in Chinese? 书桌是 desk 的意思. 书桌是 desk 的意思. Alright, how would you say 月亮 means moon? 月亮是 moon 的意思. 月亮是 moon 的意思. So for the last one, we have 手机. How would you say, what does 手机 mean? I didn't understand. 手机什么意思？我没懂。手机什么意思？我没懂。Now, how would you respond to it if you already knew that 手机 means cell phone? 手机是 cell phone 的意思。手机是 cell phone 的意思。Now, let's go ahead and move on to the next section. But before we do that, make sure you hit that like button and please subscribe to this channel. It really helps me out so I can continue to make quality content like this video. Alright, now back to the lesson. Now, we're going to go on to the flip side of that. You already know the word you want to say, but you don't know how to say it in Chinese. And supposing that the other person knows how to say it, then they'll be able to respond to you. Either way, this is a way to ask, how do you say something? So, 怎么说? This phrase right here just by itself means, how do you say that? 怎么说? And can be used with just one word in front of it, like golf 怎么说? But to be clear that you're trying to figure out how to say it in Chinese, generally speaking, you're going to say 中文怎么说? So with that, we're going to go ahead and put those words back in there, the words that we had already learned, golf, moon, desk, cell phone. And let's add in a few extra bonus words. Why not? Basketball, which is 篮球, table, which is 桌子, milk, which is 牛奶, and refrigerator, which is 冰箱. And we're going to see how we can use this. Not only how we can use this phrase, besides for just saying whatever it is in English, and then 中文怎么说, but we're going to explore a couple possible ways that they're going to respond to this. Now, they could respond to it however they want. However, a couple of the common responses would be 是, and then they say whatever it is. They may add in a 就, kind of a little more of an emphasis, like golf 就是高尔夫球. They might say something like that. Or they might just say, golf 是高尔夫球. Either one is totally okay, and that's how they would say it. The other one would be 好像是. This is kind of like saying, I think it's this. For an example, moon we know is 月亮. So if you're trying to describe to them, you say, moon 中文怎么说? And they don't know what word you're talking about. And so you start describing what the moon is, and you're kind of struggling. So you start to say something like, 就是晚上有点像太阳，但是不是太阳，还是在空中一个很亮的圆圈 or something like that. And they're going like, I mean, if you could say all this stuff, you probably know how to say moon, but just supposing you didn't know how to say it and you're describing it to them, then they might say, oh, moon, 好像是月亮. They'll say it that way. So another thing that they might do while they're thinking about it is they might say 怎么说呢? Like they're talking to themselves saying, how do you say that? So they might say, you're asking them, moon 中文怎么说? And they're saying, 就是怎么说呢? 好像就是月亮. And now for a little bit of practice, what I'm going to ask is whether you're certain or uncertain and how you'd respond to these questions. Also, to set up the question itself. So you can pretend like you're both the person asking the question and the person that's going to respond to the question. So for the first one, I'll go ahead and give it to you. If you were going to ask, how do you say table in Chinese, you would say, table, 中文怎么说? And then how they would respond, let's say they were certain because you pointed at a table and they go, oh, that's 桌子. Then the way they're going to say it is, 就是桌子 or 是桌子. Any one of those ways is perfectly fine. All right, so for the next one, how do you say milk in Chinese? Milk, 中文怎么说? Milk, 中文怎么说? Now, let's just suppose you're trying to describe it to them. They're not quite certain what you're saying, but then they respond with the correct answer, as in, oh, I think that's 牛奶. So how would you say that? 好像就是牛奶。
好像就是牛奶。Okay, now for the next one, how would you ask, how do you say refrigerator in Chinese? Refrigerator 中文怎么说? Refrigerator 中文怎么说? Now, how would they respond to that if they were certain? 是冰箱,是冰箱, or 就是冰箱.
Now let's do a couple more before we finish. For the first one, how would you ask?
How do you say basketball in Chinese?
Basketball 中文怎么说? Basketball 中文怎么说?
And then how would they respond if they weren't quite certain what you're saying, but they think they know what it is? Oh, basketball 好像就是篮球. Basketball 好像就是篮球.
Alrighty, that's the end of the lesson. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did and haven't 点赞 or 订阅 yet, please do so now. Or in other words, please like and subscribe. Also, if you like this video and you feel you need more practice, feel free to rewatch this video as many times as you need. And if you feel ready to move on, then check out the other videos on this channel as well. I promise you'll be speaking Mandarin fluently in no time. And until next time, 下次见.